Hey there, beautiful souls, and welcome to another Sunday night soul session with myself, LC, and my beautiful co-host, Pamela Topjian. Tonight, we are going to try our best to answer the question, why is it so hard to understand gender fluidity? And why is it so hard for us to really wrap our minds around non-binary and transgender and just all the things we're talking about in the world right now as far as gender goes, and why we seem to have so much resistance to that. Now, like I wrote in the description, and as you probably already know, you don't have to be a part of the LGBTQ plus community to be here with us. This is a human podcast, plain and simple. Like, our goal is inclusion. Our goal is to do our part to, lend our own experiences and our trials and our tragedies and triumphs and all of that, just to being better humans and wanting to learn from one another and to be closer to one another. And Pamela and I both have a strong belief that we heal humanity one conversation at a time. We're going to talk about the structures of the brain and why we need to check boxes and why we think we need to understand things. And we're also going to talk about the fact that we don't have to understand something to be respectful and supportive of that we don't understand. So we've got a lot in store for you tonight. We're going to try to get through it all. I know it's a longer podcast, but these are human issues, and it's really hard to talk about such deep, human involved emotions and issues in 30 minutes. So I thank you all, and I know Pamela thanks all of you for your support here, for being here with us, for helping us grow this platform and our YouTube channel. If you are not already a subscriber, please go to Transgender Mentor on youtube.com and hit that subscribe button and turn on your bell notifications. This is our last Sunday night soul session of the year 2021. And I cannot wait to ring in the new year with you all with the new season 4 of the Recovery Soul Food podcast. It kicks off with the infamous writer, actor, and comedian Tommy Chong on January the 1st, that Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, I know. You're asking, what can Tommy Chong teach us or talk to us about in recovery? But this is a new season of the Recovery Soul Food Podcast. So we're going deeper into our healing than ever before. Ever before. We're going to ask some hard questions, get to some hard truths, but we're going to come out on the other side of this healing. I mean, this season, even more healed, even more in touch with us, knowing who we are, loving who we are, and living our truth. So, if you all will join me January the 1st, Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 Pacific, we'll kick that Recovery Soul Food Season 4 off. But for now, let's get into this Sunday night soul session live on the Transgender Mentor podcast with my good friend and co-host, Pamela Topjian. Let's go. Happy Sunday, Pamela Topjian.
Hi,
So great to
hi.
see you.
Yes,
So
yes, you
great
too.
to see
Thank
you.
you.
We got some beautiful humans in the house. We got
I
Ryan
see.
here, Joni Faulkner, love you, Larry Brown. I love Larry Brown. I tell you, I'll never get over my friendship with Larry Brown. I just love that man. I love all of you. Well, this was a very important topic, and I decided to share this, specific episode out
Yeah.
on my regular Facebook page, as long
Oh,
as along with the Transgender Mentor, because I think we're all in this together. There's a lot of questions that, I think the premise of our show is about is there's questions that people don't know if they can ask. They are kind of maybe don't know anybody to ask, and we're all going through this gender explosion, this gender
Mhm.
identity kind of explosion in the world right now. Hey Pam V, good to see you. And so I wanted to include as many human beings. What's up, Maddie J, my brother from another mother? I just wanted to include as many human beings as we possibly can in this discussion. So, Pamela, I want to ask you the question that we're here to talk about tonight. Why is it so hard for us to understand non binary, gender fluidity, transgender? What's happening? What's happening?
I absolutely think that it's a generational thing for one. It took a while. I mean, just, I'm in my 50s, you're in your 40s. So just in
I
our
am.
lifetime alone, you know, when you identified as lesbian, it was because you didn't really know about transgender.
I had no idea.
So
Yeah.
that's the case with a lot of people. I think they don't even know. It's like these are all new terms, and it just is, just tradition, habit, just what we're used to. I think, people are afraid of change or they don't like change, even if they're not afraid of
Yeah.
it, they don't like it, just
Yeah.
keep me
Oh,
in my
yeah.
little, my little box
Yeah.
of
My
understanding
comfort zone,
because
please.
right,
Yeah.
right, my comfort zone. And I do also think that unfortunately, there has been, any non-binary, transgender, gender fluidity, any people that fall under that umbrella, they're just people, just like us, just like me. And unfortunately, some are not so nice when they come up across some questions. So I think that if somebody sees somebody react to a question negatively, and now they're afraid to ask. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, those people are like this. It's just like being vegan or something. Oh, those people are,
Yeah.
they're militant and they just want to shove, the nastiness in our face. Well, there's a ton
Yeah.
of people that you don't even know that are vegan that don't do that kind of a thing. The same
Yeah.
thing with anybody in the LGBTQ community. There's a ton of people, like I've said before, if you think that, you don't know somebody that is LGBTQ, at all, especially transgender or non-binary, um, if you think you don't know somebody, you do. You really do. I can't express enough how many people, we we both know and have come across that people are shocked, you
Mhm.
know, that
Yeah.
that you know that they weren't I don't know what to say, that they're fall under that umbrella, I guess.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and on both sides, I mean, like I feel I definitely wanted to kind of I thought that I wanted to do my whole transition in a stealth way.
Yeah.
But I had already come out of my comfort zone and had been sharing about recovery,
Yeah.
as identifying as part of the LGBTQ plus community. But I
Mhm.
was talking about people, you know, in order to really overcome the addiction and that fear of relapse, that we had to deal with those roots, that kept
Mhm.
making it to where we couldn't be with ourselves, where we things we couldn't accept about ourselves, the pain and
Yeah.
the hiding. And
Shadow
so,
self stuff.
yes, our
Mhm.
shadow selves, for sure, well said. And I felt like it would be such a disservice to
Yeah.
myself and the people that I was serving in the recovery community if I said, do as I say, but not as
Right.
I do.
Right.
And
Exactly.
and as much as I wanted to just kind of, you know, disappear, go off and do this in a stealth manner, it just went against everything that I felt like I was about. Like I don't like hypocrisy. And so
Mhm.
I couldn't do it. So I had to let people see my shadow work
Mhm.
and go with me on this journey as I was
Right.
learning who I was and going through the masks. And that is so I think that's a big part of what stops so many people from exploring what they don't understand is because
Yeah.
it's safe to be able
Mhm.
to check boxes. It's very safe to say,
Yeah.
okay, this is male, this is female. I get that. I
Yeah.
can okay, I can maneuver safely
Mhm.
within this parameter.
And they may even understand and say, I can get lesbian, gay, and
Right.
maybe even bisexual. But
Because
then when
that's
it
a
comes to this,
sexuality. Yeah.
right, and I was just going to say, but when it comes to gender, it's a completely different thing. Like we've mentioned several
Completely.
times
Yeah.
here that, that's one of the big differences with the T, and, in the LGBTQ, community, that it's a different thing, and not to separate, not to add more separation or division, but it's not about sexuality at all. It's not about um, attraction at all, because
Yeah.
people that are non-binary, transgender, gender fluid can and are, attracted. Some are gay, some are lesbian, some are open, and then we have the whole pansexual, and then the queer label, all of these
Yeah.
things that, and I think that's a big part of it too. And I had told you that I had put this question out on a lot of different places, and one of the things that I got a lot of was, well, there's so many, the letters keep getting added to all the time. And it's
Yes.
true. It's true. And there's
Trust
so
me.
many
It's
and
not,
there's
and it's honestly not by us. It's not
right.
by the LGBTQ. It's more about the other communities. This goes, oh yeah, put all the what we deem weirdos together. Just
Yeah,
put them all together.
right.
That's
Right.
what's happening. It is confusing.
Yeah, and there are some, I do believe, there are some, and it's usually would be transgender, non-binary, or gender fluid people that don't feel like they fit in there anywhere, so they want to say, what fits me? How am I
Right.
an individual in this, alphabet soup, How
Well,
am I an
because
individual in there? And
well,
so
we're
they,
also still wanting labels ourselves. I think where a
yeah.
lot of these labels are coming from, and this is what I think I love about the non-binary
Hmm.
community, is that the non-binary community is just saying, hey, I don't want to be only in this
Right.
box. I don't want
Right.
to be deemed male, and that means that I can't like things that are deemed female,
Right.
or I can't have longer hair, or, I
Right.
think that basically what that is, while it's a big term and it scares people because it doesn't check a box, we all are looking for our identity through what we can label. Through,
Yeah.
okay, this is who I am. I am a transgender man, American, painter. We want to put all these labels on ourselves, and
Yeah.
yet we do ourselves such a disservice by only living within the parameters of our labels. We
Yeah.
stop exploring who we truly are as divinity in
Mhm.
human expression. When
Yeah.
you think of, it'll always take me back to the Tao Te Ching when it
Mhm.
says the Tao, the God that can be named and
Mhm.
labeled, is not God at all, because
Right.
once we
Because now
label
you've put it in a
something in,
box. You're
that's
right.
right. Once we put
Yeah.
it in that box, it can't be bigger,
Right.
it can't be smaller. It can only be this. And we do
Mhm.
ourselves such a disservice. I want to
Absolutely.
read this amazing comment by Maddie
Okay.
Jablonski, and it's going to go really good with our conversation. I want to
Good.
talk about it some more, because Maddie is just a beautiful human being that has been with me along this journey. And he's a man that admittedly just says, I was pretty terrible about the whole transgender situation. I still don't completely understand it, and maybe I never will. But LC made me face the situation. That gives me like a huge heart, because
Yes.
I love that. He put me in a place of, okay, Now it's just not on TV. Now you know someone you love and truly respect is
Mhm.
transgender. And now I had to look at this with the lens of love. And I've come to realize that it may not be my way, and I may not understand it completely, but whether you're a man, a woman, or somewhere in between, we're all, and I want to say human, all. That's where it kind of stops. And I love that. I
Mhm.
love that is something someone can stand up and admit. And that
Perfect.
goes along with Matt's authenticity of standing in his truth. You see, when we all stand in our truth, regardless of what that is, we have that respect for someone else
Mhm.
standing in theirs, regardless of what it is, because we know how hard it is in a world. Um, you know, I remember when I had some people come for me in the early days and just be really hateful.
Mhm.
And Maddie had no idea of what all the letters meant. Maddie had no idea if what he was about to do was going to be completely offensive or completely amazing. But Maddie put a dress on and he went on his platform.
Ah.
And he owned himself in this dress. And I just thought, that what an amazing example even to me about someone else learning to love themselves. And I think Matt is a great example of how humanity and Christianity
Mhm.
can grow outside of what it is, these boxes of beliefs,
Yeah.
and come to realize that we're selling ourselves short,
Yeah.
and that's the brain's function. The brain wants to check the boxes.
Yeah. I think, when we're born, even before we're born, everybody wants to know, do you know if it's a boy or a girl? Do you want a boy or a
Yes,
girl? And then, from then it just keeps going as far as the labels altogether. What do you want to be when you grow up? Um, you're a good
absolutely.
little girl or a good little boy, or um, you can't do that because you can't do this because you're a girl. You can't do that because you're a boy. So that's ingrained in us. Like so many other things, but it's basically you know uh, conditioning. I was going to say
Yeah,
brainwashing, but it's more conditioning,
it's more
really.
conditioning. Yeah, I
Yeah,
like that
and
word.
I do feel like, you know, like I said in the beginning, it's a generational thing, and I do feel like more discussions like this and being exposed to just more education and more open discussion. And I, would like to ask any people that are in the LGBTQ community, especially like you said, non-binary, gender fluid, and transgender people, to be more open with about questions. And we've talked about this before to you can kind of tell if the question is coming from a
Right,
place of just wanting to know about what they consider to be a freak show kind of a thing, or if they really want to know because they want to understand. If it's coming from the
right,
right heart, you can tell. And follow your gut. If you think you can't tell, just how does that feel to you.
right,
And then
right.
also, when it comes to asking questions, please think about for anybody else that wants to ask people questions face to face. I mean, you can ask us anything, but when you're out there in public, or even your friends or family or anybody, um, would you ask those same questions of your neighbor or your friend or just anybody? Don't ask people, you know, um, don't ask transgender people, what's going on in their pants, or if they've had surgery, or what they have to wear, or or about any kind of sexual stuff. That none of that stuff is your business. I mean, if it's
Absolutely.
if it's a good friend of yours and you're really curious, I don't know why you'd even would be curious. I mean, you know what I mean? It depends on people. People
Right.
talk
I
about
mean, you have
different
to,
things with their
yeah, you
friends,
got to
but
judge that basically, yeah, like you
yeah.
said, on the closeness of that friendship
Yeah,
and stuff, and you know that. And if it's a question you would be willing to answer or would want
right,
to answer, think about it in that way.
right.
As we're talking about labels of female and male and what all that means. I
Mhm.
read, Larry Brown is a sheriff's deputy in a town close to mine. And, I think that it goes back to this. He says he's got to get out to a domestic violence
Mhm.
call. Now, how many of our domestic situations come from this place of each gender living within their role or
Yeah.
living within that, I mean, we have books like Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus and all of these
Yeah.
different things. How much do men stop themselves from being vulnerable,
Yeah.
because that doesn't go along with the
Right.
gender boxes that we check off? How many
Right.
women, stop themselves from being, you know,
Assertive.
entrepreneurs
Yeah.
or assertive or
Mhm.
all of those things because it doesn't go along with the boxes. And
Mhm.
we think that these two genders are so opposite from one another, but in all reality we all have the same five basic human needs, and one of those big needs is connection.
Yeah.
And I know I've gotten the rare opportunity to live on both sides of that
Mhm.
coin. Now, granted, I was born intersex, so I always had more
Yeah.
male hormones. So maybe I didn't get to completely dive and delve deep into that female gender, but there's a big difference. I know what it's like to be someone's male counterpart. And
Mhm.
when you're scared and lonely in a relationship, while a woman may ask you to be vulnerable, sometimes they don't really mean that in the ways that when a
Mhm.
man gets vulnerable, it scares the family because
Mm.
men are supposed to have it all together.
They're the
They're supposed
rock.
to know what to
They're the
do.
rock we're
They're the
leaning
rock.
on. Yeah.
Absolutely. And they don't talk about it in their friend groups. A lot of them
No.
don't. So therefore, we've got a lot of men operating in the world as islands with
Yeah.
the same emotional needs as any other human being.
Right.
They're not being met, so we turn to alcohol and we
Mhm.
turn to different things. We don't say what's being felt. In the other side, women are trying to survive without getting their needs met. And then we have what's called domestic violence and domestic
Mhm.
situations because nobody can hold everything on their shoulder and never talk about it and never let it out. I think
Right.
that's so much. If we could back up from all of this and get our little 3D minds out of the way and realize what the bigger divine picture of all this is helping us to learn, which is our labels cause us to build walls of only, like we've said before, only
Mhm.
what's allowed to live in that label. And we're not getting closer together as a humanity, we're getting farther apart. We're so scared to offend each other that we don't talk
Yeah.
anymore. We have created so much trauma between us as human beings because, just like I'll keep using Maddie as an example because I know he's willing to be, but just as a cisgendered male in this society, how hard it must have to be sometimes for him to say, "Hey, I didn't understand, and maybe I
Mhm.
still don't, but I love
Yeah.
this transgender person, and I'm going to be
Yeah.
an ally to that community, to the people in his community." Maybe
Yeah.
that doesn't create a safe space for Maddie.
Right.
We're all hurting, and
Yeah,
yet we
I
keep
wanted to
pushing
bring
each
up
other
this
away.
the safe space thing that, I do know people personally that are, you know, um, part of the LGBTQ community that are not out, as they
Hmm.
say, that are not people don't know. They're, maybe they're close friends, maybe some family knows, but you know, I feel like we're talking so much about being authentically yourself and everything, but I want to stress too the whole safety, because that's the main reason I'm doing this, is because
Hmm.
it just really bothers me that the hate crimes, and especially with kids and kids committing suicide, or attempting suicide or being victims of suicide. But if you don't feel safe within your workplace or within your home or within your friend group, maybe it's a good idea to think about some life changes. You get yourself away from those unsafe
Yeah,
spaces if you can. It's not
right.
always possible, but it just, just to sort of look, start to look elsewhere away from those unsafe communities or people,
Yeah,
spaces. I also wanted to bring up about, you were talking about the hormones and the chromosomes and that, the XY and the XX. And I think we brought this up before, but not everybody watches everyone. But there are I think it's the American Medical Association has now come out and said it's really way too simplified and way too general
yeah,
to be saying that it's just X, Y, and XX, and that on the birth certificates we cannot say that somebody is a boy or girl or check those boxes just because of what their outside genitalia looks like. That
true.
if they really want to check a box, if they really want to know that they need to do some blood work
Yeah,
rather
I
than
mean,
just going
yeah,
by sight. And we both
yeah,
know of several cases that, and it's easy to look up because they're public information, but there's several cases of babies that were born looking, completely one
yes,
gender or looking, sort of androgynous or sort of, intersexed, or that they didn't, it's not wasn't real clear, but they kind of made a
yes,
decision and they were advised by the doctors to raise them as the box they checked, and a lot of those people ended up being victims of suicide or
absolutely.
or worse. So I mean, I don't know what's worse than that, but becoming victims of suicide and living life terribly because they were forced into you know one identity when they didn't feel that within themselves. So I also want to bring up a couple another thing that I heard was, speaking of forced, I we have heard people say, well, they force it on us. Why do they have to force it on us? And I think it's so important. It's, to realize how much this cisgender society is forced on everybody, and
Beautiful
try
point.
to, it might be helpful to understand, to look at it from that perspective. You know, um, how would you feel if your identity, your gender, being cisgendered person, how would you feel if you couldn't tell people that, you know, if you couldn't be open with who you were and how you felt inside as far as your gender and or sexuality? Um,
And or to try to live the opposite,
yeah,
and or to be and to force yourself into the
right.
opposite. Yeah,
Right. And not
that's
to
an
be able
amazing
to
point.
be yourself. I've mentioned before about, just even something as simple as going to dinner or going to a movie or just anywhere with your spouse or your loved one, your partner, you know, and not being able to show any kind of affection for fear of violence, for fear of hate crimes
Real
or
violence.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And
Yes. Let me
it's
let me just
all too common.
well, let me add something right there. I want you to pick it back up. But I mean, let's just think about this for a transgender person, just going out comes with far more
Mhm.
planning than to, I mean, there's so many more logistics to just
Yeah,
going out. I mean, you've got to know which place has a
right.
gender neutral bathroom. You
Mhm.
have to make sure that, I mean, because at this point, if I go into the restroom that is more matches my outside expression,
Mhm.
I'm committing a crime.
Mhm.
If I go into the bathroom of which is the gender that was checked, the box checked on my birth certificate, I'm then putting myself in another situation because what happens when a lady with a young girl comes running out of there and tells her husband, and I've had this happen. There's
Sure.
there's a boy in the bathroom, there's a man in the bathroom, and then I
Mhm.
get attacked or accosted when I come out for doing what I'm being forced to do, or
Yeah.
vice versa. There's more logistics. There are people in the world that can't just jump up and put their clothes on and
Right.
run out to the store and not have to fear for their life.
Yeah.
And that's what's real, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that the point that you brought up, because that's how I used to explain, because that was my case. I was
Yeah.
intersexed, and
Mhm.
if I was much older when I actually found this out, because I didn't present, where my genitalia was so confusing in 1974, that the
Yeah.
doctor says this, they check the box and just, okay, do this. But I knew
Right.
already, 4 years old, I already knew. That's a
Right.
long time between 4 and 38 to have to live trying to force myself
Mhm.
into a box that I didn't fit in. And
Yeah.
so, a lot of times, whether we understand, we don't always understand how things work. We don't understand how these cell phones work. I don't understand how I'm talking to you right now from my state to your state, but I know that I'm doing it,
Mhm.
and I can live within the space of, this is the way it is. This is it, you
Right.
know, and be happily at peace with that without having to understand exactly how it works. It's
Yeah.
the same thing between human beings.
Yeah. Yeah, I it kind of reminds me of people that are, hold steady against, and it's more like my generation that they're not going to use cell phones, they can't stand how, just call somebody if you want to talk to them, or I'd prefer to see people in person, It's like,
I was
well,
never
you're
going to use a
really
computer.
limiting yourself if you're not going to
Yeah,
use a cell phone this day and age, but
isn't that interesting?
and I'm sure that they said the same thing when they put in telephones into people's homes, even landlines. I'm sure they said the same thing. Well, this is going to, I'd rather talk to somebody in person. This is really impersonal and I don't like it and I won't support it. And what about newspapers? People are sitting in restaurants and in, bus stations and whatever, reading newspapers with their head in their newspaper. Well, now it's the cell phone. So what? It's the same thing. People have to grow,
Absolutely.
you know, and
Well, we can
evolve with the times.
we can fight change as hard as we want to, but it doesn't mean that change is not still going to happen. It's
Right.
just, how do you go in it? Do you go in it with a sense of peace,
Yeah.
and know that you are, that you are moving into this and growing with the world, or do
Right.
you go kicking and screaming? It's just the way that you want to
Yeah.
go. It
You're
looks
gonna
like we're having
isolate
a
yourself.
few Yeah, it looks like we're having a few internet problems, and I don't know if
Yeah.
it's on my end or your end. Either way, it's saying we have an unstable connection. So we're gonna try
Mm.
to keep moving.
Okay.
I'm hardwired in. I don't know, but I've been having problems all day with this computer
Mm.
stuff. I'm with
Yeah, you're
Pamela. I
you're
was the
s-
one that said I wasn't gonna use one. So you know.
you're sounding a little you're choppy and you're choppy in your video and your sound on my end the way it looks to me anyway. So
Yeah, and on my end, it looks like you're freezing and a little bit
that's
choppy.
that's what
So
you're doing. So
hopefully
okay.
everybody is this, our technology will hold on,
Yeah.
and if not, we love you and everything. But there's just so much to all of this, and
Yeah.
and I think that we can't visit this aspect without visiting, and I'm going to do this quickly and hope that we remain here, but I'm going to get off this subject really quick. But one of the subjects that's always brought up to fight against us is, biblical.
Mhm.
And I just want to say about this subject, um, when we owned people, when we sold people, when we kidnapped people, when we raped people, those verses that we use to enslave them, they're in the Bible. And it really, in all honesty, comes down to, the Bible is written to where if a person wants to use it for hate, they can. If a
Mhm.
person wants to use it for love, they can. And I think that it
Interpretation,
is
yeah.
a much bigger, it's a much bigger, I think, again, we sell ourselves short when we try to narrow everything down into this one literal place because it's not read or written as a literal, subject matter. And so I
Mhm.
think that we've got to remember that when we are using the Bible to slur hate and judgment, we must remember that every slaver that ever owned a slave used that same exact book for hate. And
Yeah.
so I just want to make that small point and let's, move on from that. But that's part of the the big thing that what we can't get our hearts around, our minds around. And I think that again that goes with the problem of boxing ourselves into just
Exactly.
one religious aspect. When we see God through just the one set of lenses, we sell ourselves and God and the creator so short.
Yeah.
So short. Because I always say the aliens didn't drop the alphabet mafia here. We're all human beings. We're
Right.
all here. You cut us and we all bleed. You
Right.
stop our brains, we all, in our hearts, we all die.
Yeah.
There's always there's always a bigger message
Yeah.
within anything that's being presented to us at any time in our lives. If it weren't the case, we'd all still be naked and scratching ourselves like cavemen.
Yeah.
Evolution has to be, we must grow. And so I don't know why we're so unstable. I'm connected
Yeah.
here to Ethernet, but you know, that's just the
Well,
way it is sometimes.
I want to mention, in case we get cut off or if we end up leaving early, that to
Yes.
please, please, please look at, find if you're on Facebook, find and you're not on there already, find the Transgender Mentor Facebook page. And we also have a private group. It's very small because it is very private. Also, I
Mm-hmm.
want people to know this week anyway, not after this week, I'm going to be off for 2 weeks.
Yep.
But
We'll be on a 2 week
but
hiatus.
please feel free to send me a message, either there or on any of my breakthrough hypnotherapy pages. But if you have questions or want resources, more information, I'm happy to share that. But there's some websites. I think you're putting some information below. Is that correct? So
Yes.
so
Yeah.
go to the websites if you want more information and you want to educate yourself and or others. Um, just support equality, support just understanding, support education, you know, um, that's what it's all about is equality, whether you understand or not. It's about educating people so that it's not such an outside thing that we don't talk about or we fear offending, or we fear differences, like you said, we all bleed. But there's also, the Trevor Project as well is very good.
Yep.
And, and, but there's a couple, but also I'm going to be putting some stuff, and I always do, but I'm going to be putting some stuff on Transgender Mentor private group and the Facebook page with some good, very informative, educational TikTok accounts and stuff like that for non-binary and transgender and gender fluid people,
Yes.
just to help gain some understanding, without having to do, if you don't want to delve deep into that whole rabbit hole of going to the websites and that, but we've piqued your interest or helped you to open up a little bit, you can just go through some of these accounts and get some good information.
Yeah, one of our favorite is Corey Schiller's at Goose Caboose 2011 on
Yeah.
TikTok. I love Corey. Corey is an amazing human being who is really there, just being such a
Yeah.
supportive human being, an ally to
Yes.
humanity, and just really open and secure and who he is and
Yeah.
owning his story and living his truth, and is just so always amazingly willing to share
Mhm.
openly about who he is and the transgender community,
Yeah.
and just about just I love Corey. Corey's always going to be one of our favorites. If
Yeah.
you want to also know more about Corey, then check out our interview with Corey
Mhm.
Schiller from At Goose Caboose 2011, which I think is about 3 episodes ago.
Yeah.
So check that out on our page as well. Um,
Yeah.
I just, there's so much that this is a holiday season,
Mhm.
and this is a time where more LGBTQ plus youth will be put out of their homes. They
Mhm.
will become homeless. We will experience suicides during this holiday season because of people being ostracized and shamed out of their own family units, and they will
Yeah.
feel alone. And not only just LGBTQ plus, there will be a lot of
Right.
people in new recovery. There will be a lot of people that are in active addiction that are going to feel alone. They're going to feel defeated. And I just want all of you, the whole of humanity, to know that you're loved and you're important no matter what you're going through, how you identify. You are a living, breathing human being. And I ask you to please, no matter where you are, don't give up. Your life is so worth living, and there are ways and places that you can find your tribe.
Mhm.
A great new resource that I've just learned about is the www.wannatalkaboutit.com. It is for anyone that is struggling with their mental health, and it's just an amazing resource. And so I urge you, regardless of how you identify or what you're going through, if you or someone you know is struggling with their mental health, please reach out. Like Pamela said, and we just showed those numbers, but if you are a trans youth, LGBTQ youth, look into the Trevor Project. The Trevor
Mhm.
Project is an amazing, amazing support network for, our youth. If you're trans specific, call this, trans specific care, trans lifeline. There's, sometimes we got to look outside of our bubble to find resources, and sometimes we just got to take a chance on a stranger. And I want to
Yeah.
tell you this, if you don't find the right one at first, don't let that be your excuse to, give up. Don't do that.
Right.
Keep going till you find your tribe and find what fits. You are worth it. I can't say that enough. Everyone deserves to be here. Your creator created you, and you deserve to be here. That's the
Right.
bottom line.
Right.
And so, well, I'm just, I'm forever grateful for all that you do in your allyship and what you stand for in the world. And again, we were talking about earlier, when you dive into deep healing, and that's one of the beautiful things about tragedy. When we go through
Mhm.
tragic situations in our life, I spent a lot of time wishing things had been different,
Yeah.
beating myself up because they weren't. And you understand that too. We get
Mhm.
to that place of just pure breakdown, and we often hate being there, and I get it.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that breaks us open to that place that says, I'm going to explore more about who I am. Because when we're living in those shells, in those boxes, we're so confined that
Yeah.
that's when it feels hopeless. But if we realize that the shell is not actually as thick as it seems, we can break open and discover who we are. And that brings me to, you have a new book coming out, and I want you
Yes,
to
I do.
spend a little bit of time talking to us and telling us about your book and where people can pre-order it, and just tell us about that, the premise of it, please.
Well, thank you. I didn't come this far to only come this far. And it is my autobiography, and I'm not special. There's nothing different about me. I've been through a lot of tragedy, as many people have. But the difference is, or the reason for the book is to help people to realize whatever you've been through, even from childhood or in your adulthood. I've had a total breakdown. I've had a lot of different things throughout my life that are, you know, different traumas. So it's CPTSD and not just PTSD. And I've went through therapy, and now these past 2 years or so, just really, really, my life is better than it's ever been last year. And then this year is even better. And I'm really looking forward to next year. And so it's just showing people to, it does get better. It can get better. Don't stay stuck down there because of what you've
Yeah.
been through. You can follow your dreams, and you can reach for your dreams. You can live a life of, peace and love and freedom and self-expression and authenticity, So it's really just a book to it's kind of a it's not a real long book, and it's um going to be available in paperback, but it's just, kind of a short and sweet, just my story, just to give you the gist of my life, what I've been through, and then coming out of, having a big breakdown and then coming out of that. And it's available on pre order on Amazon. You just put my name, you see my name right there. You just put my name in the Amazon, um, and you'll find it. And for pre-order on Kindle. But like I said, in January, I think 15th or the 11th is the launch date for the paperback. So thank you so
Outstanding.
much.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'm really looking forward to reading the finished, the published version as well. I've been reading through it. I'm privileged. I get a pre-copy of it, and I'm really, really grateful about it. I mean, I think anytime that we can read a story
Yeah,
that, can resemble and resonate, like our lives, the nature of the ego is to tell us we're the only ones,
right.
and it's to tell us that, what we've been through is unmanageable, is we can't
Hmm.
fix it. And to
Hmm.
be able to read something from someone that says, but no, you can, like, your breakdown is the catalyst to your breakthrough. And if
Absolutely.
you take the steps and you take the action, and you just grab your power back, because
Yeah,
tragedy often wants us to stay under its power. But when
yeah.
we decide to pick that up and say, no, I want to see what I'm here for,
Hmm.
then that's when the magic begins to happen. When we break through the labels, when we say, this is not who I am. I'm not defined by trauma survivor, post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm not, defined by addiction. I'm not
Right,
defined by my sexuality. I am a divine expression of
right.
God in human form.
We are
Now,
all we are
that's
all so much
huge.
more. Yeah, all of
We
us.
are.
And
We
it's helpful to look
absolutely
at
are.
everybody else. You look at yourself, and if you can look at yourself and come to an understanding of being a part of something much bigger, then you also have to include everybody else must also be a part of that same
Yeah.
bigger existence. And
Yeah.
it's really helpful to be able to see people in that light,
It
whether
is.
you understand it or not. And whether you feel, because of just sort of habit and the conditioning throughout your life, whether you have some sort of negative kickback emotions from that, try to step away from that and look at the bigger picture.
And ask yourself, when you have these beliefs that keep you small, there's a few questions you can start to ask yourself. And I've had to do this myself, and I still do. When something comes into my reality that I have an immediate visceral reaction to, and
Right.
I call it a belief, I ask myself this one question: is this my belief, or is this the belief that has come from, childhood? Is this the belief that has come through a parent or a grandparent,
Right.
a clergy, or a school, or is this truly my belief?
Right. Where did
And
this come
that's when,
from? Yeah.
yes, you can really get to know yourself. And let me remind you, you are worth getting to know. You know,
Yes.
we run from ourselves so much
Oh my
because
gosh. Yeah.
we are truly programmed to believe in every moment of every day that we are not supposed to do hard stuff. And if something's hard, it must not be right. It comes in even the smallest ways. Like
Mhm.
every commercial that you see on TV is how to make your life easier, which
Mhm.
translates into my life is not supposed to be hard.
Right.
And it's the definition that we give hard, you
Yeah.
know, that that makes us think we're somehow not doing things right. And the
Yeah.
reality is struggle is growth.
Yeah.
Struggle, has to be seen as growth. It is. We
Well,
don't grow in the good
look at
times.
the metaphor of the butterfly. I mean, it's so cliche and it's such a, but it's gosh, it's
But it's
so true,
true. It's so
They're in that
true.
cocoon and they're all tied up and they just can't move and they don't know, of course, they don't know what's going on. It just happens. But this
Yep.
metamorphosis is amazing. And so, and there's also I think it's just a proverb or something about the cracks are where the light comes in. And oh my gosh, is that true or not? The cracks are
Absolutely.
where the light comes in.
Absolutely.
When you think you're broken, that's your chance to see the light, literally.
Absolutely. Oh,
Uh,
it's so true. It's so true.
it's
You
so
know,
amazing. Yeah.
you and I could talk about the power of of loving your scars for
Hmm.
hours, because learning to love your scars takes you out of
Yeah.
that place of despising them.
Yeah.
I used to use and drink just incessantly to try and make myself forget
Mm-hmm.
about my scars. And it was the moment that I realized that by doing that, I'm allowing these things to control me. I'm
Right.
allowing my abusers to continue to abuse me daily, 20 and 30 years later,
Yeah.
and that I was still giving them my power.
Right.
And, it took a decision to stand up and take that power back. Now, it doesn't mean that I didn't have to take that power back 100 times a day
Right.
in the beginning, but it's just like any belief. It's a thought that you think and identify with over and over and over and over again until before you know it, it's subconscious and
Yeah.
you're reacting in that way automatically. Pamela, I knew this was going to be an amazing, amazing
It
episode. I
always
knew
is.
it.
It always is.
Yes, it is. Thanks for, spending this last bit of 2021 with me. It's been an amazing year to have grown in our friendship and been able to, be in each other's tribe. That's just been just outstanding. I'm so grateful for
Absolutely.
everything this year. The hardest part, one of the most strenuous, I guess, and stretching years of my existence. I'm
Mm.
grateful that you've been here with me, that we've had so many beautiful human beings here. I hope that you have an amazing holiday season and so Pamela says she's going to go on a little social media fast. And I encourage all of us to do that when we feel led, because it just reminds us once again that we are bigger than these things that have the power to kind of run our lives. And so, I know we'll be in touch some in that time, and I just wish you and your family just all the most amazing blessings and growth ever.
Thank you.
It's been an amazing year, and I'm glad to have this friendship with you. And so,
Well,
thank you
me as
once
well.
again.
It's my honor. Thank you. Thank you.
Outstanding. I'm so grateful to know you. That's right, y'all. Your vibe attracts your tribe. So look around at your tribe, because if you wonder how you're truly vibing, you got to look around at your tribe. Is it full of drama? Is it full of, cattiness? Is it full of jealousy or envy? Then realize that you are somewhere vibing that way, even in your
Hmm.
subconscious. Try not to spend your time trying to fix everybody in your tribe, and turn that inward and spend
Yeah.
that time on you, and watch where those things are seem to be common in your lives, those common themes are actually your vibration, and that's
Right.
what's bringing things back to you. And so that's where we got to start, and that's where we got to fix that. Y'all, I just want to thank you so much for being a part of this with Pamela and myself, for helping us grow. And we thank you for your continued support, and hope that you will go over to our YouTube channel, look up the Transgender Mentor, and become a subscriber, and turn your bell notifications on. We are going to be on hiatus for 2 weeks. I may pop on and do something if I feel led to, but I'm going to plan to be getting ready for season 4. Y'all are going to love this Tommy Chong interview. It's an amazing interview about deep healing, inner knowing, and we're going to talk about God, MAT, salsa dancing, and so much more. It's
And
an
that's on
amazing
Recovery Soul
interview.
Food, though.
That's going to be
We want to make
premiering
sure people know.
January the
Yeah.
1st at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And it's going to
Recovery Soul
be
Food,
right there on Recovery Soul Food YouTube
not
channel.
Transgender
It,
Mentor.
no, no, not Transgender Mentor. So be a double LC supporter right now. And also, this is a great gift too if you're thinking about, going deeper into your own healing and wanting to know more about how you vibrate. Consider having some hypnotherapy sessions, some holistic healing with Pamela Topjian. For the Transgender Mentor community and the Recovery Soul Food community, Pamela has so graciously offered to give a free full session on her breakthrough hypnotherapy, which is amazing because you get the consultation that actually comes with a free 15-minute session already, just to see, how you like it and if it's something for you. And then for our listeners, she's also going to give you a free full session
Yeah.
along with that. So that's a great amount of time to know if hypnotherapy is going to be really
Yeah.
effective for you. And
Just
so
mention just mention LC
that's right.
or Transgender Mentor or Recovery Soul Food when you contact me.
Yes, be sure to do
Yeah.
that. And you can find that at www.hypnobreakthrough.com. And I've got that right there,
Yes.
hypnobreakthrough.com. Man, we love you guys so, so much. We believe in you and just want you to have the most amazing and beautiful holiday season of your entire life. You're special. You mean so much, and you mean so much to us, and we shall see you in 2022. Pamela, as
Thank
always, I love you
you.
so much, and I thank you, and we'll see y'all next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.